Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah, Hakwadash, Barakatah. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. And peace and salutations to Yakim out there pushing this word in truth. This is the Brother I with another video. And the name of the article I'm going to be using today is The Doomsday Clock Just Tick Closer to Midnight. And it's on USA Today. Scientists moved the hands of the symbolic doomsday clock closer to midnight on Thursday amid increasing worries over nuclear weapons and climate change. The clock is now 2 minutes to midnight because of the extraordinary danger of the current moment. The Science and Security Board today moves the minute hand of the doomsday clock 30 seconds closer to catastrophe, said Rachel Bronson, president of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. This is the closest the clock has ever been to doomsday, and as close as it was in 1953 at the height of the Cold War. So as you brothers can see, we're getting closer and closer to World War III, which will end with a nuclear disaster, and then afterwards will be delivered out of this place by Yahushai, and where it says, this is the closest the clock has ever been to doomsday, and as close as it was in 1953 at the height of the Cold War. That reminds me of Ezekiel 38 and 3 through 4, and say, Thus saith the Lord Most High, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and Gog today is Russia, and I will turn thee back, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords. And as it said in the article, that we haven't been as close to nuclear destruction as we are now since 1953. And Russia was known as the Soviet Union back then, and the whole thing with that was, I think it was called MAD, Mutually Assured Destruction, where the U.S. and Russia, which was the Soviet Union, were in an arms race to see who could build the most nuclear weapons. And as a deterrent to each other. So, as it says here, the Most High is turning Russia back into that old Soviet way, and all those army and horses and horsemen and swords and shields and bucklers can be seen as the nuclear missiles, because all throughout the scriptures the nuclear missiles were described by things that the prophets knew back in those days, because when they saw these visions in their sleep, they saw the missiles, but they didn't know what a missile was, so they were described as an arrow or a different type of weapon. Each year, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, a non-profit group that sets the clock, decides whether the events of the previous year pushed humanity closer or farther from destruction. The symbolic clock is now the closest it's been to midnight since 1953. It was also 2 minutes to midnight in 1953 when the hydrogen bomb was first tested. We've made the clear statement that we feel the world is getting more dangerous, said Lawrence Krauss, chair of the Bulletin Board of Sponsors and director of Arizona State University's Origins Project. The danger of nuclear conflagration is not the only reason the clock has been moved forward. The announcement was made in Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club. Scientists blamed a cocktail of threats ranging from dangerous political rhetoric to the potential of a nuclear threat as the catalyst for moving the clock closer towards doomsday. The statement explaining the resetting of the time of the doomsday clock notes, in 2017, world leaders failed to respond effectively to the looming threats of nuclear war and climate change, making the world's security situation more dangerous than it was a year ago, and as dangerous as it has been since World War II. I'm going to go to Revelations 8 and 13. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels, which are yet to sound. And to you brothers out there that know, those three woes, or the three world wars, as it's stated in that article, the world hasn't been this close to such dangers since World War II, which was that second woe, which means we're getting closer to getting into that final woe, which is World War III, before those final trumpets sound, and World War III, nuclear destruction, and the coming back of Yahushua Hamashiach. The greatest risks last year arose in the nuclear realm. North Korea's weapons program appeared to make remarkable progress in 2017, increasing risks for itself, other countries in the region, and the United States, the statement continued. Hyperbolic rhetoric and provocative actions on both sides have increased the possibility of nuclear war by accident or miscalculation, which is not the case, because in Isaiah 45:7 it states, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, Yahweh, do all these things. So these leaders and military strategists and all them, they have no free will, because it's all in Yahweh's in Yahweh's power to do all these things. On the climate change front, the danger may seem less immediate, but avoiding catastrophic temperature increases in the long run requires urgent attention now. The nations of the world will have to significantly decrease their greenhouse gas emissions to keep climate risks manageable, and so far the global response has fallen far short of meeting this challenge, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist said. And some people believe in climate change and don't believe in climate change, but in the end it's all up to Yahweh and what he wishes to do in order to bring forth these prophecies. And as it says in Matthew 24:6-8, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, that doomsday clock, nuclear war, and World War III. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet come. For nation shall rise against nation, God going back to its former ways, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginnings of sorrows. And famines, pestilences, and earthquakes all would be fall under the banner of climate change. So as you can see, it's all through the Most High. As it says back in Isaiah 45:7, I make peace and create evil, nuclear war, climate change, and such. And these are all just the beginning of sorrows, because we haven't gotten to the meat of the situation yet. And I had heard that when that Hawaii false missile alarm went off, that a man who had no prior health issues dropped dead from a heart attack. And as I just said, these are just the beginning of sorrows, so how much more when the actual sorrows begin? People, even myself included, we can't begin to comprehend how bad Jacob's trouble is going to be when it actually starts. So we just got to pray and keep in the faith that we're not taken out of this thing, and that we have the strength to endure until the end. Today's doomsday clock announcement must serve as an urgent wake-up call, and could be the last one we get, said Derek Johnson, the executive director of Global Zero, a group that wants to eliminate nuclear weapons. Last year, the clock ticked forward largely in response to candidate Trump's alarming campaign rhetoric, but the reality of a nuclear-armed President Trump running loose in the world is worse than we feared, and that is clearly a central factor in this decision, Johnson said. And I'm going to go to Isaiah 19:4. And the Egyptians, which is modern-day America now, because it's spiritual Egypt and Sodom, as stated in Revelations, will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts. And that's definitely what Trump is. You got people worried about him being in charge of nuclear weapons, which I can understand. If you're not an Israelite in the truth, you would You would be scared over it, but I think it's beautiful that the Most High put such an ignorant, pig-headed man in charge of such power, because you know he's going to slip up, which is all through the Most High anyway, but he's going to slip up and dive America headfirst into World War III and nuclear destruction. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai. The closer to a setting of midnight it gets, the closer it's estimated that a global disaster will occur. The farthest it's been from midnight was in 1991, as the Cold War ended when the clock was 17 minutes to midnight. The clock has been maintained by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists since 1947. The group was founded in 1945 by University of Chicago scientists who had helped develop the first nuclear weapons in the Manhattan Project. The scientists created the clock in 1947 using the imagery of apocalypse, midnight, and the contemporary idiom of nuclear explosion, countdown to zero, to convey threats to humanity and the earth. I'm going to get one more scripture. In Jeremiah 10:2, thus saith Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. And with this doomsday clock, which is a way of the heathen because it's all secular and scientific, they're dismayed by them because they don't understand. But us Akim out there, we're commanded not to be dismayed by the signs of heaven, which are in the prophecy, because this kind of stuff, we understand it, and we're not dismayed by it if we're of that hopeful number. And we can only pray that the Most High quickens these events so we can get closer and closer to getting out of here. And I hope you brothers were edified. And until next time, Shalom.